Okay, so here is what researchers believe are the 6 success criteria that have been shown to be relevant. These 6 items came from research by a former University of Houston professor who's now at the University of Virginia, Ryan Nelson. So he said that projects that come in on time are defined as being successful, and projects that deliver what they're supposed to do, it's called product success. It met the user's requirements or the sponsor's requirements. Cost is another way of saying came in on budget. The value says, okay, this is what the system is supposed to return to the organization. Did it return a value? Next comes use. Was the system used? Again, we're often surprised that use of a system is a measure of success. We kind of assume that once we've done all the hard work that it's going to be used, but the truth is it's not. And finally, learning. There's some research that says part of the way we gauge the success of a system is whether learning happened. For the most part, I don't think that's all that relevant. Okay, so Dr. Nelson did some surveys and asked project managers to rank the criteria. And after he did his work, what turns out to be the most important thing for project managers is that the project gets done on time. And that kind of makes sense. To team members, however, the most important thing for them is that the product does what they were asked to do. You see, that's a kind of important thing, right? And we call that the IT management paradox. The project manager is interested in getting this thing done on time, but the team members are interested in building a product that does what it says it's supposed to do. So we can see a very natural conflict arises here, right? That the longer the team members take to build the product, the less happy the project manager is going to be. And they just go round and round. Let's take a look at what was the least important thing for the project manager. Well, the least important thing was learning, and we're going to set learning aside for most of this. But look at what the second least important thing was to the project manager: use. The project manager doesn't care whether this system gets used or not. They're concerned about time. They're concerned about the product getting built the way it was supposed to. Then they're concerned about cost. And number 4 is value. Contrast that to the team members. The most important thing is product. Next comes time. But look how important cost isn't to them. It's the least important part of all of this. And that shows why so many IT projects end up getting late and over budget, because the team members really don't care about that. Their feelings are hurt, however, looking at number 3, if no one uses their system. Okay, the users. What's the most important thing to a user? That it gets used. And if we remember the video that talks about how we predict use, its ease of use and usefulness, we can see that the users of this system have a very clear understanding that they want this system, if they're going to if it's going to be valuable to them, that they use it and incorporate it into their work. The second most important thing to them was that it does what they need it to do, and that's the product item. Look how important cost isn't to the users. And in fact, we often see collusion between the team members building or implementing the system and the users. Since they just don't care about cost, it's not much of an issue. Time also isn't important to the users. Now, to the sponsor, to Eva in our example, the most important thing is value. Does this create a return? Now, remember that she probably had to do some cost justification to gather both the financial and political capital to do this project. So it has to return a value. She's very keen to watch the value. It also needs to be done on time. She has specific time horizons in her mind and wants to get this thing done. Oddly enough, and this is where most sponsors don't really think things through, is they assume the system's going to be used, but quite often it doesn't get used, and that certainly will impact value. Now, the suits we talked about, we said we'd talk more about them later on, but top management who's typically kind of aloof from individual IT projects, unless they're really, really big ones like ERP systems. They tend to have this hands-off idea about the way IT projects work. So they're mostly concerned about value. This is where the sponsor and top management are in sync. And in fact, they are almost colluding in how value is extracted from systems. But look what's a kind of a different way of understanding the conflict between sponsors and top managers. Top management, their number 2 important criteria is that the system get used, but that wasn't so high for sponsors. So we look at use. The sponsor has most sponsors rate use as not being all that important, but top management is tired of spending money on systems that don't get used. So it actually, as part of their responses, that's the number 2 most important thing. Look where cost is. Cost is number 3, and while it's important, they're more concerned about the system getting used. Okay, we put all this stuff together, run a little statistic, and we see that the most important thing that comes out of this study is that the product does what it's supposed to do. In other words, once we've gone through the hassle, I guess, of collecting the information about what the product should do, if we said which of these 6 things is most important, the most important thing really is the product itself. Look what's the least important: cost. Although that's the thing we most often focus on. Now, what Dr. Nelson tells us that in terms of a strategy is he suggests that to maximize the overall success of a project, we should focus on product, on getting the thing used, and the value generated. But if we are going to generate value from this, the cost and time that we put into a project is not significant. So as we start summing this thing up, we see that the idea of building IT projects is a bit different than building some other projects that we might have in our organization. This gives us a sense of how to direct our efforts and our resources.